Hi guys, the Chancellor and the government are taking a bit of flack over the tax rises in the budget, and this is mainly coming from both the Tories and their friends in the media. There is of course a lot of fear among small business owners and farmers over certain aspects of the budget, and many in both aspects of the economy are claiming that they will be forced to shut down their respective businesses. But as I said in another video, Labour may be hoping that the public as a whole are willing to ignore what may be seen as broken promises and a bit of a hard time if the goal is worth it, fixing the NHS and public services. Here Johnathan Portes, a professor of economics at King's College London, explained Labour's rationale.
And, we talked about, some of the money, the big increases in spending in the 2000s on the NHS and other things did go into higher pay and maybe weren't spent as efficiently as they could have been. On the other hand, after a couple of years, the government started to get a grip and to drive progress in the NHS, we did see very significant falls in waiting lists and very significant rises in patient satisfaction. The NHS genuinely got a lot better. Now, of course, the challenges today are very different. So it's not that you can just do the same thing, but it is possible for governments to spend the money well, but it's not easy. And I do think that this is, in the short term, this is really by far the most important challenge. We are putting a lot, the reason real household disposable income is not going to go up very, very much in this parliament, as Ben said, is because the government is taking money out of private spending and putting it into public spending. It is taking money out of our pockets and businesses' pockets and putting it into the NHS and other things. And my view is actually, and as Ben said, we are they are effectively sort of breaking some of their, at least a letter of their manifesto promises in doing that. But I do think, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that is broadly what the public wants. And if the result is actually substantial improvements in public service, an NHS that actually works, I, for one, am happy to pay more tax if the next time when I took my mum to UCL with a hip fracture, we waited in A&E for 8 to 10 hours. And of course, we were lucky. If that stops happening, I think people will forgive both the increased taxes and the dishonesty about the manifesto and say that was a price worth paying. If, however, we pay higher taxes and we don't get results in terms of that delivery of public services, then nobody is going to be happy.
Well said. No one is going to be happy because the Tories push this line, well, we need to reduce taxes, we need to look after businesses, and that will result in growth. And that did not succeed. And instead, what you saw was austerity. And the Tories are continuing this line once again. They're saying, you can't tax your way to growth. But the alternative was austerity, and that did not result in growth, resulted in stagnation. Now, Labour have said that they're not expecting massive amounts of growth. The OBR have predicted pretty much stagnation over the next number of years. But if this is going to result in better public services, then Labour will be okay. Because what is the point, and I keep coming back to this point, what is the point of a government if it doesn't look after the health, the education and the well-being of its citizens? So the Tories abandoned that concept when they were in power for 14 years. Running public services like the NHS into the ground, cutting benefits, driving people into destitution. What was the point of a Tory government? Unless it was just to make the rich richer. So it seems Labour are saying, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take money from one group of people and we're going to use that to rebuild public services. We're going to improve the NHS. And if they're able to achieve that, as I keep saying, they'll be elected back into power. Because if people see the situation improve, and elections are referendums on the incumbent, if people believe things are getting better, then they will vote for Labour again. They're not going to risk it by putting the Conservatives back in power. Now remember, the view of the Conservatives at the moment is pretty poor. That could change, in 4 or 5 years' time. So Labour have to remember that. So they have to work hard to improve public services. The public don't care much about growth. the public don't care about GDP. They care about what impacts their lives. The NHS, public services, the council, housing, issues like this. If those are resolved, those problems are resolved, then Labour will be re-elected. So it probably makes sense from a Labour government's point of view. Look, we're going to sacrifice massive amounts of growth and focus on improving public services, at least for this Parliament. Perhaps at the next Parliament, going into the next general election, they'll be promoting the idea of growth. But we'll have to wait and see for that. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.